Why is Trump so eager for a ceasefire? Asked Ukrainian military expert Oleg Janov. He doesn't care that such an agreement would only freeze the conflict. If our political leadership and Trump were to halt the fighting along the current front line today or tomorrow, they would be dooming our country to a third war. One that would be even bloodier and on a far larger scale. Why? Because the Russian Federation will not stop. They will never shut down their military-industrial machine. Janov stressed that the Russian economy is now fully mobilized for war. Citing Reuters, he said the chances of ending the conflict are practically zero. He warned that if the nearly 1 million strong Russian force currently in Ukraine were to return home en masse, it could easily sweep Putin from power. You know how a wave recedes and then comes back stronger? That's exactly what would happen, he predicted. As long as the war continues, Putin can sit securely on his throne and contain that wave of anger. But the moment the fighting stops, combat pay, bonuses, and other incentives vanish. Add to this the growing number of embittered soldiers, refuseniks, and deserters troops being driven to slaughter, and you have an army plagued by disease and discontent, including outbreaks of hepatitis C, Janov noted. He also surprised listeners with a stark prediction: while Putin wages war abroad, parts of Russia are vanishing at home. Due to budget cuts in non-military sectors, many provincial cities are sliding into economic collapse. In the coming years, nearly 130 towns in Muscovy could disappear from the map, Janov warned. Putin craves new territories while neglecting his own. The most at risk are in the Bryansk, Novgorod, and Kyiv regions, as well as Krasnoyarsk Krai, areas short on resources and unable to attract investment. You may laugh, but Nizhny Tagil in Sverdlovsk Oblast could be among the first to go. In the town of Krasny Kut in Russia's Saratov region, explosive-laden FPV drones were reportedly launched from a vehicle resembling a house on wheels, Focus writes. Russian Telegram channels have called on residents across multiple regions to record similar incidents and immediately report them to federal law enforcement agencies. Krasny Kut, Saratov region, report FPV launches from vehicles as on June 1st at airfields. Observe safety precautions, one message read. Soon afterward, similar alerts appeared for residents of the Rostov and Volgograd regions, and eventually for all rear areas east and northeast of the Rostov region. Locals were told, if observed, urgently report to 112 100 seconds. Provide make, model, color, registration number, and exact location. According to Russian social media, the suspected launch vehicle was a dark-colored Toyota truck or SUV modified into a camper, with a large superstructure over the cab and solar panels mounted on the roof. The license plate was reportedly stolen from another vehicle. Warnings specifically mentioned the risk of FPV, UAV launches from such vehicles in Krasny Kut. As of publication, neither Russian local authorities nor Ukrainian officials had commented on the reports. This comes in the wake of Ukraine's Operation Spider's Web, which may be remembered as one of the most sophisticated and successful covert operations of the war, with implications far beyond the current conflict. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the June 1st operation involved 117 drones striking multiple airbases deep inside Russia. Ukraine claims to have damaged or destroyed 41 aircraft, including strategic bombers capable of launching cruise missiles. The drones, concealed in the backs of trucks until close to their targets, reportedly caused up to $7 billion in damage at minimal cost. The strike temporarily stunned the Kremlin, undermined Russia's ability to carry out missile attacks on Ukraine, and strengthened Kyiv's position ahead of proposed negotiations in Istanbul. Beyond its immediate impact, Spider's Web offered a glimpse of a future battlefield transformed by cheap, commercially available technologies such as small drones, where virtually any target, anywhere, can be hit. While NATO observers are likely impressed by the operation's success, it also raises urgent questions about the alliance's preparedness for similar threats in the years to come. After 42 months of grueling combat in Ukraine, Russia's stocks of modern armored vehicles have dwindled to critically low levels. So low, in fact, that Russian technicians are now pulling derelict tanks out of long-term storage, machines long deemed unfit for combat. Recent satellite imagery of Urovanzavod, the massive Russian tank plant in Nizhny Tagil, 1,600 kilometers from Ukraine, reveals exactly what open-source analyst Jompy had been expecting since Russian tank losses surpassed 4,000 earlier this year, according to Euromaidan Press. That figure is roughly equal to the number of tanks Russia had in frontline service before launching its full-scale invasion in February 2022. Just like that, there are a lot of likely T-72s parked in the yards outside UVZ now, Jompy noted, using the abbreviation for Urovanzavod. Tanks appearing outside the plant typically mean they're awaiting refurbishment, and possibly upgrades, before being sent to frontline regiments, including those in Ukraine. The 46-ton, 3-person T-72A isn't the oldest variant of the T-72 family, but it's close. Only the original T-72, Ural, introduced in the early 1970s, predates it. While Soviet industry built thousands of both Urals and T-72s, they were succeeded in the 1980s by the far more capable T-72B, which featured a stabilized 125mm gun, thicker armor, and a more powerful engine. For decades, the older T-72s sat idle at storage sites like the 349th Tank Storage Base in Russia's Topchikinsky district, 2,000 kilometers from Ukraine. Good for spare parts but not much else. That changed when Ukrainian mines, artillery, missiles, and drones decimated entire generations of Russia's more modern tanks. With Urovanzavod producing only around 300 of the latest T-90M tanks each year, the Kremlin has been forced to dip deep into its reserves of aging T-72s. Earlier this year, dozens of 40-year-old T-72Bs began arriving at the plant, but with only a few hundred in storage, those stocks are already running low. Roughly 1,000 T-72 Urals and T-72s remain. As recently as last summer, another open-source analyst, High Marst, predicted that the first-generation T-72s wouldn't be pressed into service until Russia had exhausted slightly newer T-80Bs, T-80BVs, and T-72Bs. I expect at some point they will have to create an upgrade program for these tanks, he wrote of the T-72s, calling such a move a sign that there aren't many T-72B or T-80B BVs left in storage. That sign has now appeared. The supply of T-72Bs and other 1980s vintage tanks is nearly gone. The T-72s are next in line for combat duty, deployed on those increasingly rare occasions when Russia dares to use tanks along Ukraine's drone-patrolled front lines, Euromaidan Press reports. Exactly how many of the roughly 1,000 early model T-72s can be made operational after decades of open-air storage remains uncertain. Equally unclear is how much the Kremlin is willing to invest in refurbishing them. The T-72s lack key features of modern armor, most notably stabilized main guns that can fire accurately while on the move.